Welcome, welcome. As you guys all get logged in, if you will go ahead and put in the chat what part of the state you're from and what your weather's like. So I know who's in the room and whether you're having a sunny day, a rainy day, a windy day. Um, Mostly so I can live vicariously through you guys. What kind of weather are you having today? Andrea, what kind of weather are you having?
We finally see the sun. I'm so happy.
Uh, it appears to be cloudy here in the
Oh,
tri
really?
which is better than rain, you guys, because it
Yes,
has been
I'm so
raining.
tired of it.
It's been raining quite a bit, and I like the rain just fine. But it's nice to have some sun. What about you guys?
It's going to be pretty warm where I am too, which is not a bad thing.
Well, I I'm glad that as summer's starting, we're starting to have some warmer, sunnier weather. Everybody needs a little bit of vitamin D so that we can have a great time. Oh, look, we got mid 70s, breezy, sunny. So you
Fine.
you have excellent weather for being outside.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so we are here today to talk about practicing self-care. Oh, look, we've got somebody else is having a beautiful day in Eastern North Carolina. That's so exciting. So I actually grew up, you guys, in Beaufort, North Carolina, which is right on the beach, right, plenty of water access, and it was always gorgeous and it never got extremely cold or extremely warm. And then I decided I should move to the mountains. And in the summer, when I lived in the mountains, it rained every afternoon. And my poor coastal heart just could not understand. And then it snowed in the winter and there was ice everywhere. And it's so interesting how different the weather can be all across North Carolina. Anyway, so we are here today to talk about practicing self-care. Let's start with some introductions. Andrea is our host, so we'll start with her. We like to put people on the spot here in Anastasia's Tool Time Tuesdays.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Andrea Young. I am ECAC's communications lead and host of Tool Time Tuesday.
My name is Anastacia. I am a parent educator at the Exceptional Children's Assistance Center. And then prior to that, I taught special education. As a reminder, you guys, all of our frontline staff is the parent of a child with a disability. Some of our children are very young. Some of us have children who are adults, but we really want to come to you as people who are practicing and who are living life right alongside you with similar occurrences, similar experiences, because we really want to partner with you where you're at. And so today, we want to talk about self care and the importance of self care, because we know that you guys are super parents, are super professionals, and you have a lot going on all the time. So, how can you practice self care when you're so busy? So, we're going to start with what is self care. So, in the chat, tell me, what is self care to you? One of the really unique things about self care is self care isn't the same for everybody. What works for me might not be what works for Andrea. So, in the chat, I want you to tell me how you practice self care or what that word means to you. And again, for my amusement, we'll start with Andrea.
For me, I would say I like to run. So my self-care is getting up really early in the morning and running, which probably is not for everybody, but that is for me. It's my time early in the morning just by myself.
In contrast, for me, the idea of running as self-care is harmful to my spirit, you guys, because first of all, the idea of getting up early enough to run, and that to me is the opposite of
Yes.
self-care. I'm not sure what the self-loathing maybe, because I don't enjoy that activity. But for me, one of the biggest pieces of self-care is before I get up my kiddo every day, I go and I make my coffee, and I try to have my coffee before he gets up so that I can have a few minutes to sit and reflect and think about what I'm going to do today and just have a minute to myself. It's really important sometimes that I do that because my son would like to stay up till 1 a.m., you guys. And so I need that minute to kind of decompress because we might be going until 1 a.m. and I never know. So I need that minute. What do you guys do to practice self-care? Give me some one-word answers or some emojis in the chat. Oh, I love that. Quiet cup of coffee and devotion in the morning. Other times driving with your windows down. Great. Working in your yard. Some people are great at working in their yard. That's another place where I struggle, you guys, because I have the blackest thumb of growing things. So plants, I feel bad for them. It's relaxing for me to plant them, but unfortunately, I am not a good caretaker. Yoga is excellent. Meditating is excellent. Swimming is excellent. Exercise in general can be really good. I know that my own distaste of cardio aside, exercising in general can be really good for centering your mind. But really, when we think about self-care, no matter who it's for, this is going to be an activity that where we're centered in kind of mindfulness and we're focused on something that is meaningful for you in that moment. It's a minute. It doesn't have to be very long, but it allows you to have a chance to breathe. As parents of kids or even professionals working with students with special needs, we often are very, very busy. Our lives can be very, very taxing. And because they are often very busy and taxing, we don't always feel like we have that minute to just reflect and breathe. So before we move on, just so that we're practicing mindfulness, let's all take a deep breath. We're going to hold for 2 and then let out for 2. Are you ready? And then you guys, you can close your eyes at night. But I think deep breathing is very helpful for me in centering, but it makes me, it forces me to have that second to think. So let's breathe in and breathe out. I often used to do this with my students when I taught, and we would just start our day with a deep breath in, a deep breath out, and we'd do a couple, and it would really just recenter us in that moment. Okay, so because we're all really busy, and I know that this is a phrase that people say all the time, you cannot pour from an empty cup. If I am run down, if I'm running on no sleep, if I am exhausted from navigating all my child's activities, if I am exhausted from all of my work meetings and I don't have the energy to do dinner and bath in the evenings, if I'm tired of navigating my kiddos' arguments, if I am exhausted and run down, I don't have anything left to give. And so there's 2 things I want to, put out here is we have to find ways that we can pour into our cup so that we have something to share. Because if our own cup is empty, what do I have to give? I don't have anything left. I've given it all. There's nothing left. The other analogy that I actually use for me instead of I can pour from a cup is a plate, right? And so I have a plate and it has piles on it, similar to this nice friend with her notes on her steering wheel. There's all these piles on my plate, but my plate has a finite amount of space. I can only put so many things on that plate before it falls or it breaks. And as people, as parents, as professionals, what we never want to do is end up in a place where we are so drained, we are so overburdened that our plate is broken, that our plate is dropped. Because as parents, especially as parents of kids with special needs, we don't always live in a world where we have the opportunity to be at that place. And so we have to find ways to make sure that our cup is full and that our plate is reasonable. And reasonable is going to look different, right? How much I can handle on my plate is going to be different than what can be on Andrea's plate based on, sometimes that's going to be based on that moment, that week in time, or exactly the mental load associated with that weight, right? And so, one of the best things here for everybody to remember is it is okay to say no. Somewhere in the world, there is this belief that to be a super mom, you cannot say no. That's just not the world we're going to live in, you guys. It is okay to say no. I may really want to go to my family's birthday party that they're throwing, but I know that X, Y, and Z is happening at the same time. My kiddo, they're grumpy because of allergies. My car is I would have, like, it doesn't matter the reason why. It is okay to say no if putting that on your plate is something else that you cannot sustain. It is okay. And it would be better, right, to say no than to put something on my plate that I know is going to make my life incredibly hard. Um, for example, in the summer, sometimes we are offered for my son extra therapy opportunities. And in my head, yay, therapy, love therapy. Therapy is so important. And so in the summer, we often do swim therapy. But when we were talking with his therapist, I was like, I just cannot commit to this every week because swim therapy is a whole ordeal, right? You have to put on a swimsuit, you have to get swim diapers. I have to drive the hour to the place where the swim therapy is, the hour back. That is like 4 to 6 hours of missed work. Plus, I have to apply sunscreen. There is so much that goes into swim therapy, but I still want him to be able to participate. And so instead of saying a straight no, we've made adjustments and we're only doing swim therapy every other week because that is what I could reasonably tolerate putting onto my plate. And it is okay to have a system of checks and balances for your life where you know how much you can handle and you're able to make decisions accordingly based on that because it is okay to say no, it is okay to say not right now, and it is okay to kind of normalize making adjustments to plans to make them work for you because yes, in an ideal world I would love to be able to say yes to every opportunity. I'd love to say yes to every party, every family event. But it's important to remember that not all of those people offering those things understand the true realities of your life. Again, to take an example from me, I have a very complex kiddo. To pack him up, you have to put him on a portable ventilator. I have to have all of this emergency supplies to go with him. I have to make sure I have oxygen tanks and I have to make sure I have his formula to go with this. And I have all of these things, right, that have to go in with us, that planning to take him somewhere can't just be done spur of the moment. And so while I might be sorry for saying no, sometimes it is better to say no than to put all of that on my plate and have a miserable time because I didn't have the capacity in that moment to plan that effectively and to make that a successful outing. Similarly, same vein here. We can better support others when we take care of ourselves. If we're not taking care of ourselves, it's hard to take care of others. It is hard to manage our children if we are drained and tired and exhausted. Something else that is incredibly important in all aspects of parenting, teaching, practicing, professional activities with students, be kind to yourself. We are all human. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to have times where we have overextended ourselves and times where we break for whatever reason, depending on, whatever the circumstances. Please have grace for yourselves. You can be a super mom, you can be an amazing mom and still have struggles balancing all that life is requiring of you. whether that means you're faced with difficult choices, it really doesn't matter. The reality is that you have to be kind to yourself. And I want you to remember, right, that these a lot of the things that we're doing and saying, as you're practicing them, you are teaching and modeling these behaviors for your children. So being kind to yourself is and modeling what that looks like is only going to help when you think about kids' self-esteem, students' self-esteem, because we all make mistakes because again, we are all human. And we're sometimes going to have really hard choices where the answers are not black and white. And we have to make determinations for ourselves. And sometimes those decisions are really hard. And so be kind to yourself as you are navigating life because it's okay, one, to make mistakes, and it's okay to have grace for yourself if you falter. Okay, on to important things. It's really important, especially if you have young kids, that you try or kids with disabilities, that you build self-care into your routine. And I want you to think about this similar into in a similar vein as early intervention. So recently, in the past couple of years, early intervention has switched to a model where they are teaching parents to provide the interventions. And this is so that those kids can get those interventions in a daily basis, right? They're not just getting it in therapy. And I want you to switch that framework and apply it to your self-care routine. Okay? Because as parents, we do not always have time to have 5 minutes to ourselves. So what can I do? Let's talk about it. So you got to make dinner. You can dance during dinner. You can play music. You can listen to an audiobook during dinner. You can practice meditation while the chicken is cooking. There are so many things that you can do to build this into your routine. You've got to clean. Great. Let's dance while we sweep the floor. Let's dance while we vacuum. If dancing's not for you and you enjoy gardening, okay, I have all these tasks to do. How about every this many minutes I go outside and work on my garden? We can find a way to build these things into our routine so we are getting a few minutes of self-care every day. If it's a cup of coffee, okay, I have to make my son's lunch. I'm gonna go ahead and while I'm making that, it's gonna take me like 15 minutes. I'm gonna enjoy a cup of coffee. It is okay to take the time for yourself, and it is okay to build it into your routine so that you have to do it. My mom, part of her self-care routine is when she would get home from work, she would sit for 15 minutes in her car just staring at the at the door and playing on her phone. And for her, that was self-care. Again, self-care looks different to everybody. But now as an adult, I also sometimes will just sit in my car and just have a moment to myself, right? Because when we have kids, sometimes we're on, especially if your child thinks he should stay up till 1 a.m. And so having, even if it's just 5 minutes, it is okay to take that 5 minutes to yourself and practice, whatever self-care looks like to you, which again is going to be different from me to Andrea to everyone. But you really want to build it into your routine so that you're filling your cup up a little bit at a time. This is really going to help when you have a day where there's no potential for you to have a minute. Another way that I do this is when my son, again, he's medically complex, has to go to a bazillion and one doctor's appointments, I always treat myself to coffee on the way, some sort of fancy coffee somewhere, so that I can feel like I have been rewarded for the good job that I am doing. Now, is that a silly way to think? Maybe, but I feel better about it. I feel good about I feel good about life when for having done all this packing up and having to drive, an hour to Charlotte or an hour to Chapel Hill, getting that coffee. That coffee, they're a little overpriced, but it makes me feel like my day is better. And so I will make sure, that I set aside, if I know that we have these appointments, that I set aside enough money to do that so that I can have that little treat, the little pick me up. The same thing with swim therapy. After swim therapy, we always stop at a local ice cream shop and get ice cream so that again, we can have just that little pick me up that's going to make it seem like this was no big deal and we got a little treat. And it's okay, if again, self-care is what you need it to be. Sometimes this is the kind of self-care you need. Sometimes mommies need their own time out where they have 5 minutes to themselves. Again, we kind of have gone through this a couple of times, but remember, self-care is going to look different to everyone. For you, your spouse, if you have a spouse, go ahead and talk to them and make a plan for how you're going to make sure that you both can access self-care. If one of you is working and one of you is not, and one of you is home with the kids all day, it's really important that both of you then, because one was at work all day and then one was home doing a different kind of work, it's really important that you guys work together to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to do something that's going to recharge themselves. If that means once a quarter you go to a concert and that makes you happy and you're excited for it, it's okay and it's valid to do that. If it is, that you see this fancy book and you want to buy it, you save up to buy it, that's okay. Whatever it is that is meaningful for you and is going to fill your cup up so that you can be successful and so that you can navigate the topsy-turvy life that we all live, that is what is meaningful. Now, the backbone of all of this is build good base habits. Build good base habits. Because I can assure you that your cup is going to empty sooner and your plate is going to be a little fuller if you are not getting enough sleep. And if you are forgetting to eat. Hangry moms, hangry professionals, hangry dad, hangry is not where it's at, you guys. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough food, and then you want to make sure that you are getting enough sleep. I used to, my family used to make fun of me when I taught for having a 10 o'clock bedtime as an adult, but I can assure you that having a 10 o'clock bedtime led to a very successful life because I made sure that I got enough sleep. Now, again, similar to everything, enough sleep is relative person to person. How much sleep Andrea needs to be a functional human and how much sleep I need to be a functional human could be two very different things. But you know yourself. And so try to plan for most days being able to get enough sleep. And most days, even if, sometimes I'm so busy, I don't remember to eat. So I make sure to keep a couple of, protein bars, protein shakes, some sort of snack that I can have because I am really bad for forgetting to eat. And then I don't feel good later. And I'm like, why don't I feel good? Why do I feel so run down? It's because I never ate. And same thing with water. If you have to set a reminder on your phone to remember to eat, to remember to snack. And if I'm gonna be honest, you guys, sometimes having those little my son likes those little Gerber crunchy things, those little snacks, just sitting around to give you something. It's a good idea to keep something around to make sure that again you are well fed, you are hydrated, and that you're well rested. Whether we have a lack of sleep or a lack of food, all of those things are going to make it easier for life to feel very overwhelming. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we leave today is self-regulation. Sometimes as moms, we need 5 minutes. Life is overwhelming. Practice these things with your kids. Practice deep breathing. If you want to do like balloon breathing, build those skills with them. This is going to be great for them to see you do, and it's going to build those practices for them to say, mommy needs a 5-minute timeout. She is really stressed. I'm going to take 5 minutes. And you guys can even set one of those stand timers or set a virtual timer to look at where you can have 5 minutes. We're both going to take 5 minutes to ourselves. You can do deep breathing together. You can model these activities for your kids because life for them is overwhelming too. And also that allows them to participate in that self-care and to gain those skills. Most of those self-regulation skills are taught skills. And so seeing, okay, mommy is frustrated. She's saying she's frustrated. How is she going to calm down? Having that opportunity to see how you calm down is going to be so beneficial to them, while also allowing you the space to practice and to have that moment to take a deep breath and to have a moment to yourself to cope, right? um and another thing is, remember, nobody's human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to get frustrated with our kids. We're going to get frustrated with therapists, professionals, everybody. We're all human. We're going to get frustrated at times. And what matters is how we respond, and you can model self-regulation skills for your students or your children. But also, if you make a mistake, it's okay to say, hey, I got really frustrated earlier, and I maybe said something that I didn't mean. I am so sorry. It is okay to apologize. And it is okay to take that space and model those things for your children, so that we are raising humans who have the ability both to self regulate and who know how to practice self care and know how to engage in deep breathing if they need it, or engage in stepping away when they need it. Because as adults, those are skills that we need. I need to be able, if I'm really frustrated, to take a 5 minute time out in a separate space. I need to have those skills. And so it is okay to practice these with your children to make sure that you have that moment, so that you can be in a place where you're not overwhelmed, you've had some deep breaths, and you can keep moving on. Because one thing about being a super mom, there's always more work to do. And so there's always things to put on your plate. Just make sure you're taking stuff off your plate at the same rate that you're filling it, so that you don't end overwhelmed. Remember, self-care isn't selfish. It is not selfish to need a minute for yourself. It is not selfish to need time to decompress. It is okay to have that as a need. And we all need to practice mindfulness in a way that is meaningful to us, so that we can live lives that we enjoy living, where we're not stressed out all the time. And remember, before we leave, it is okay to say no. Never forget that. It is okay to say no. It is okay to say no, and it is okay to take a minute to yourself. Andrea is going to release our poll. I don't know if you guys have any questions about self-care, but if you did, you could certainly ask them.
And I'll add while we wait to see if there's any questions. Next Tuesday, for Time Tuesday, we are going to have Jennifer Ingerman with us. She is the coordinator for NC Sibs, which is the state chapter of the Sibling Leadership Network. So their group helps support siblings of if siblings of brothers and sisters that have a disability. So definitely join us for that. She'll be talking about the mission of their organization, how siblings, families, and professionals can be SIB supporters. So that is a great opportunity to learn more about that.
Absolutely. And also, you guys, make sure, this is completely aside, but just a thought that I had. Sometimes, especially if you're parenting a child with special needs, it can feel very isolating. It can feel like you're very alone. Please plug into some communities, whether that's agencies like the Family Support Network or the Autism Society. Plug into some communities that are going through, even if they're not the same, but similar things, so that you have a sounding board and you have a space where you can talk. Because sometimes our families love our kids. Sometimes our families love our kids, but that doesn't mean they always know what we're going through. They may not understand the diagnosis. They may not understand how it impacts their day-to-day life. And I don't want that for you guys. I want you guys to have a space where you can have the resources and support you need when you need it. And a lot of times that is other moms of kids with similar needs or similar disabilities. And so if you guys are ever in a place where you need to find what those communities are, please reach out to us. We will help you get connected, because we do know that this journey sometimes is harder some days than others, but sometimes you just need somebody who knows and has been there, or you need somebody on the other side of that story that can tell you this happened to us. This is where we ended up. This is what we tried. It is similar to self-care, not being selfish. It is okay to ask for help. We are all going to need help sometimes, and it is okay. And the same thing goes for professionals. It is okay to reach out for help. You are not going to miraculously know everything about every disability condition and every resource that's available in this world. It is okay to reach out for help and support when you need it, because again, that will help to take some things off of your plate. And what we want to be, at the end of the day, my goal as a parent is to be as successful as possible, and that my child is happy, and that I am content and happy most days. And I want that for you guys too. So if you guys are ever in need of resources and support or access to finding communities to help you, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to connect you. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys coming today and listening about self-care. I will send you a copy of this presentation this afternoon, and I'll also include some visuals for some breathing exercises that you can do with kids, because I find that very, helpful. But don't forget to take care of yourself this summer, especially during the summer when everybody's kids are home and they're there all the time. So take care of yourself. I hope you guys all have a great day and a happy summer. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.